not compacted as possible. So yeah, if I can ask you to stay in the past, that would be wonderful.
These plastics will not harm the soil that you are.
This plastic, well, I mean, if this wasn't in plastic, I shouldn't be standing on it. But we have, well, this is our hoop house. Underneath we have our hot crops, so they prefer hotter climates, drier temperature.
Right.
And yeah, I'm just stepping here because it's outside of the hoop house. But what this does, it's a landscape fabric, so it will allow water to permeate. But inside the hoop house, the main factor that it does is it heats up the soil. So because it's black, it'll absorb a lot of that soil, and it'll go into the soil, and it'll just create a nicer climate for our hot crops. Also what it does is inside the hoop house, if it gets really hot, as it does once the sun comes out, it'll keep the moisture in the ground rather than evaporating, so the plants stay drier, because tomatoes do not like to have wet fingers or wet leaves, so the drier in there, the better. And then, of course, there's no weeding. So we've planted this once, and we have not weeded it. So no weeds will come through this. I mean, you get things like that, right? Just, you know, the struggle for life through the tiniest little hole. But
does it have any other purpose during winter also? Because winter you cannot cultivate it.
Yeah, so we'll move this. We'll pick this up. So actually, the plan with this hoop house, with the season extension, so what you could do is, I have it ready. I have another 4 beds, so the same width as this, planted here. And they're all just coming up, you know, small. They're all germinated. I did my last planting for the season this morning. So what we'll do though is, this tomatoes, we're kind of at our final leg with our tomatoes and our hot crops. So once they're done, we'll take this out and we'll move this hoop house, which is quite simple. It's just metal ribs that are on like a metal rod like this stuck in the ground. We'll move this over there, over those beds, and then we'll be able to stretch harvest in those beds into almost November. Yeah, so you can get another kind of couple months of harvest out of that.
What will you do to the ground here? Will you do anything to prepare it for the winter?
And then this, and that's an area where I'm still learning too. This whole mode of production with the raised beds is a style of market gardening that's kind of moved forward by a gentleman out of Quebec, and it's relatively new, a couple years. He's growing 1.25 acres and grossing 140 grand.
$140,000.
$140,000.
1 lakh. 1.4 lakh.
So he has 3 permanent employees. So I mean, he's still netting around $80,000 or something like that, which is great for the small piece of land. But
1 acre. You said 1 acre.
1.25 acres, which is mind-blowing. He's traveling the world now promoting this style of production. But what it's different, is the mode and the raised beds. The raised beds, keeping the soil structure there, you can grow dense. So you can grow plants much tighter than you would in a conventional setting, where the roots will compete horizontally. With these beds, the roots can penetrate deep, and so you can plant denser. And what that does is it protects the soil from erosion and wind, will keep underneath the plants moist. That's not only good for the plants, but it's good for soil life. And it keeps weeds maintained. So once the canopy of your crop kind of blossoms out, the weeds will be maintained underneath that. So there's no space for weeds. And then beyond that, we use black plastic. That's our method of kind of preparing land. Rather than coming in with a tractor and tilling it all and knocking down the grass, we'll lay black plastic over it for about a month, and that'll kill everything. And then we'll come in, make our raised bed, which is kind of once in a lifetime, or once in a decade. You know, we might have to reshape our beds eventually
because they keep that black thing and it kills the weeds. There's no need for plowing.
We have a really cool piece of equipment. It's kind of like a propeller you'll see on the back of a boat.
It's the weeding.
You just kind of go down and it'll spit
and
soil
everything dries
to
up.
one side. So a couple passes you can make a raised bed.
Sounds strange.
But the raised beds will stay there. We use the